give a warm, untapped potential welcome to Mr. Michel Williams. He's the Managing Director of Navigance, let me know if I'm pronouncing it right,
Right.
Consulting Services in Dominica. Hi, Michel, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice to see you again.
Same here, same here. As you know, we're from Bathurst State. I know everybody's going to be like, oh, Lord, somebody else from Bathurst State. But what can I say?
I
The
know.
most brilliant minds come from Bathurst State.
Apparently so.
Well, in honesty, we always start where we are. So we start with the people we know, and you and Stephen Lander and Miguel Labadie,
Yeah.
those have been some of the people I have known from way back when. So I'm very
Long
happy
time.
we're still connected. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to keep things moving in this
Mhm.
uncertain times, but it's definitely an interesting time to be alive. I'll tell you
I
that.
know, tell me about it. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
All right. So I'm a chartered accountant by profession. Been so for about 26 years. Started navigating probably about 20 years ago. But in between that time, I have worked in my personal capacity in a number of different areas. Some of the biggest businesses in Dominica, Fort Young, Church, National Bank.
Mhm.
We've also done a lot of work regionally as well, from Jamaica all the way to Guyana. Um, we are primarily an accounting firm, but it's an accounting firm with a difference. We do public audits as well. But we also do a lot of consulting and business development from startups all the way to even restructuring, liquidation. We've been quite busy during this COVID time as a lot of businesses are pivoting to the new normal. Yeah, so we're a full services firm. We have offices in Dominica, Barbados, and Grenada.
Mm, good. So tell us a little bit of the scope of your business. So about how many clients you would say you
Uh,
have between all the offices.
in Dominica, we've had about over 100 clients. We have about 15 regional clients. We have basically almost every credit union as a client on this island, a number of them in Grenada as well. So I think we're probably pushing maybe 150 across the Caribbean.
Good. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's quite a large company. So congratulations on that.
We still think we're small. We're not a big six. So
Well,
we,
it's not like you have 5 clients.
no, we don't.
So you're pretty significant if you ask me. Now let's kind of talk about business before COVID-19. What was business like for you guys?
Business before COVID-19 was pretty good. I mean, a lot of our clients were in, development stages. A lot were looking for expansion. Um, I think things were pretty quiet, although from a business perspective, the world was getting quite expensive. In a lot of what you needed to do, development expenditure expenses were going out of whack. The price of oil was quite high.
Mhm.
So power in these islands is a very expensive thing because that's not subsidized at all. But businesses made money, and FDI flows were coming in quite nicely. Tourism was a big deal in the Caribbean, and it was quite vibrant. And in February of this year, that pretty much vanished.
Yeah.
And that has been significant because a lot of the businesses in the islands either directly or indirectly feed off the tourism product.
Mhm.
And so once the borders closed and flights disappeared and cruise ships became mini quarantine zones, um, it meant some significant contraction in the amount of capital that was moving around in the islands, and we're still feeling it today.
Mhm.
We're starting to get back there, but it's not a V, it's more like a tick, where
Right.
the drop was sharp, but the up climb is pretty much stretched out.
Mhm.
So I don't think anybody's at pre-COVID levels yet. I don't think we're going to be at pre-COVID levels well into 2021.
Mhm.
And so a lot of adjustment had to be made. And we worked with a lot of our clients to make those adjustments, both in terms of some had to shrink their businesses, some had to restructure how they do things. The lockdowns changed a lot of things. The service industry, restaurants, bars were very hard hit because those businesses really rely on congregation of people, which is taboo now.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to try and get, Caribbean people are not so much into the takeaway business as much. It's not a thing here. I mean, people still want to go to their store and go sit and eat their food and congregate and so on. And that shift has not really taken root, and it's very difficult to commercialize when your customers have not been accustomed to making that kind of change. And so it's pretty dragged on. So it's interesting times. Some people have gone out of business because their market just not there anymore. It's been very tough on a lot of employees, particularly people in the service sector, but it's not that they cannot come back. And that is what I try to tell everybody. There is an opportunity to come back. I think what we need to do is to think out of the box and come back in a different way. And one of the things that I hope coming out of this is the Caribbean does not pivot to a mono-economic activity. We had sugar, then we had banana, then we had tourism. It's almost like it's one thing that we can do.
Right.
I think now we need to deepen our financial system. We need to broaden our economic base and there's a lot of calls from the governments of the Caribbean for innovation and to digitize. I think the financial system and the legislative framework is still mark timing, figuring out how they're going to participate in that new economy. But I'm hopeful that a lot of the young entrepreneurs that are coming up have embraced that and they're trying to do new things.
And thank you for bringing that up, Michel, because you're actually answering a lot of the questions I had for you, because I really wanted us to talk about the impact of COVID on business right now. It's almost like we're living in a new world that we thought was going to be temporary, and now we realize it's going to be a little bit more permanent. So how do we adjust? How do we cope? And you've already started talking about that, but in your own business operations, have you guys made any changes to accommodate clients in a certain way? How are you guys coping?
Well, I mean, we're fairly nimble. Because our main product is our intelligence. So we can do that from everywhere. I have to tell you that significantly cut down my traveling. I used to travel about probably 200 days a year on average, because a lot of clients want it in person. So a lot of that has moved to digital now, in terms of conference calls and Zoom calls. That's a big thing. And so, we have shifted a lot of our services digitally, certainly our advisories digitally. We do most of our accounting and auditing work that we can remotely right now. So we have made the shift. And it's easier in the service-based industries like that to make that type of shift. The challenge is when you have significant brick and mortar operations. We're moving our Barbados practice completely digital.
Wow.
I mean, we gave up the office, everybody's work from home.
Permanently?
Permanently. I'm not going back into brick and mortar again.
Yeah.
And that is because in that area, they were further ahead in terms of embracing, doing things digitally than some of the other islands like Dominica per se. I mean, Dominica, I still had to come to work every morning. I sit in my office for 8 hours. And the meetings are still, properly sanitized, but they come.
But why do you think in Barbados you guys have made the complete switch to working from home and you haven't done it in Dominica?
Well, because the clients over there are much easier transition to that sort of digital space.
I see.
The clients in Dominica, they still feel that they hear it differently when you're sitting across from them than if you're on Zoom.
Right.
Some things have moved. I mean, we do a lot of meetings, board meetings, and those sort of things via Zoom right now. But it still is a culturally here, you still get more effective work done and people still want to see you face to face to explain themselves,
Right.
rather than staying from home.
Mm-hmm.
So the shift is happening. It has to happen even more because COVID is not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but in Dominica too, there's a lot less business as well. So people are still fairly mobile.
Now, have the branch in Barbados, have they faced any challenges from being completely technology based? Right.
You go where you need to go and you do what you need to do, but
Absolutely.
pretty much they're fine. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a completely different society,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Now, let me ask you this, because fortunately for people like you and I who work more in intelligence, let's say, what would you say to someone, one of your clients, who does not have the luxury of working remotely, working via technology? Do you have any ideas how they can adapt to the change in business environment?
Well, one of the biggest challenges we see with the people that are not able to digitize their commercial activity is the number of customers they can actually serve in the same opening hours or the
Right.
same daylight time. I mean, you have businesses that would normally, break even, let's just say a restaurant, 100 covers, 50 covers a day, or for over lunch hour, 25, and with small islands and stuff. And, you could do both things because you would have takeaway and then you would have in-store, in-person people. Now that you're mostly doing takeaway, you don't have the capacity to try and produce as much in the same time to get to the level you were before, because people sitting around a table having conversation for 25 minutes give you time. When people come to pick up, they don't have time.
Right.
And so the efficiency and the scale of the operations need to be increased to meet that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough convincing financial institutions of that, given the fact that people generally have less money, but you have to scale up and still be more efficient at the same time.
It's a lot.
So it's a difficult needle to thread. But I've introduced people to ghost kitchens, which is something that is big in the UK.
Oh, I think I heard about that. What is that again? I've heard about that.
It's basically a restaurant without the front end. So it's basically just a kitchen. You can put it in a container. You can do it in a downstairs. There's no customer interaction with the kitchen. It's like a production facility for a restaurant, but the food is really all delivery.
Yeah, I've heard about that, because I've heard that there are actually restaurants that are sharing the same space. So for example, if you and I were doing a ghost kitchen, and thank you for bringing up that point, you can have it in the morning for a certain amount of hours, prepare your food, and then I can have it in the evening. So I think you said it best. It's all about thinking outside of the box. And I also think it's also important to tap into your network. Right? So I know, for example, that you do a lot of work with like giving back, with doing workshops, with doing presentations. So is there a certain theme that you're seeing when you do this type of workshops? Because I know you do a lot of work with like entrepreneurs. So is there any themes of concerns you see coming up with that?
Well, I'll tell you, there's no lack of interest. I think there's a significant knowledge gap and resource help for young entrepreneurs, because, and it's not just COVID, that has been a while. The people that know how to maneuver the system, I mean, places like Canada, the big places, you have very mature small business organizations that provide sort of skill sets, locations where people can start up and get resources and so on. Not necessarily access to finance, but just the understanding of how to maneuver the legal stuff and the tax and just basic ideas to get them going and to explain how do they navigate that. That's lacking. I have tried, to really give back in that type of way, because, I've been through the system, not only as an advisor, but I own a couple other businesses as well. So, it doesn't, I mean, if you don't know, it becomes very difficult for you to maneuver. Your access to finance, for instance, it's more about how you approach the bank and what you,
Absolutely.
how you present then,
Absolutely.
you know, the fundamentals of the business itself. Because I mean, if you're in business and you are able to stay in business, your fundamentals are archaic, but banks don't really share what their rules are.
And I think that's a lot. And we say young entrepreneurs, but I want us to say entrepreneurs in general, because some of us are not so,
I know, right? I'm
but
starting to
like me and you.
understand.
But you make such an important point, because I think a lot of times people think of what you need to bring to the bank, and in any business environment, they don't think of how are you presenting yourself. So
Yeah,
if I'm a bank and you're coming into business to try to do some business with me, yes, you might be a barber, you might be a hairdresser, so you're not used to dressing formally, but that presents an occasion for you to dress formally. You're
correct.
not going to step into a bank looking all casual. So I think that you're raising a very important point. It's about how do you present yourself.
Yeah, and having a profound passion and knowledge of your business.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, the credit officer cannot know about your particular business and industry more than you, and you are in it to
Absolutely.
expect
Yeah.
them to lend you money. And
Mhm.
so, you know, businesses really have to spend the time understanding not only their internal fundamentals, but the macros around them as well too. I mean, how do you make money? And who are your competitors? And what market? Where do you want to go? And where do you see your business in 2 years?
And
I
and
mean, in
that's
this,
what and that's what we don't take the time enough to do,
no,
Michelle, because a lot of times we're passionate about something. And I always come back to the music industry, because that is where we're lacking. We're so passionate about music. We don't see it as a business. So we
um,
don't do a lot of what you're saying. We don't look at the competition. Well, maybe we have like already 5 booyah bands, so maybe I should do something a little bit different. We just focus on the passion. You might like to cook, right?
yes,
So you're thinking, oh, I'm going to open a restaurant. That's great. But what is the competition? What is going to set you apart to ensure that you're profitable? And we don't pay attention to those things.
it's going to make you special.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, even when we do business plans for when people come to us for business plans, we have this long 14-page questionnaire
Hmm.
that we, you know, send them home with to just go through and jot down things. And a lot of people come back and tell us, well, they never thought about
You
that.
see? Right.
And so, you know, but that's what we need,
Hmm.
because, you know, we don't do things that are pretty. We do things that will be your Bible for
Yeah.
your first year or two.
Hmm.
And so those are the questions that you need to ask yourself first. So, you know, it has to go into the plan. And so I think we have no shortage of passion in
Right?
the
We don't.
island. We also have no shortage of talent in the
Yes.
islands, in almost any field. Our education level is good and
Top
second to none.
notch. Yep.
So, I mean, you know, people pretty much have good understanding and fundamentals and things. So I think what we really need to do is just to put in the guardrails and to get people focused on moving whatever their specific passion is. And most importantly, monetizing it with a certain amount of discipline.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because business, I always tell people anybody can start a business, is keeping it open that differentiates you from the rest.
Right.
And so, you know, a lot of that is education. Unfortunately, in these islands, our economies are so small
Hmm.
and business is so brutal, you don't get the opportunity to learn as you go along by making mistakes.
Hmm.
And so when you read all these memes that tell you about fail often and fail thing, that doesn't apply in these islands. You only get one chance to fail.
Absolutely. That's it.
Right. So the more you can learn and the more things that you can put on paper and the more people you can connect with and the more, you know, I mean, when you're in a country with 5 banks and you all 5 don't like you gotta move to another country.
Right. Hmm.
And they don't like you forever because
Or you
if
might
you
perceive they don't like you because you're not presenting yourself properly.
possibly, but I mean sometimes, you know, you get into business and you run up I mean, you know, you run a foul with a bank
Hmm.
and business
Hmm.
didn't turn out. You probably have a bad loan and you gotta have to figure it out and so on. And then you maybe figure it out and then you want to come back to do something else and you know you have your
You
your
strike
shame
red.
your shame for life. So that is part of a very shallow financial system as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it has led to the emergence of non-bank financial services companies that have
Which
really,
concerns me, which concerns me. It seems to be there's a number of payday loan companies
yeah,
emerging,
they've
and
been
that's
around.
very concerning.
They've been around. They haven't pivoted to be loan sharks yet, but
Mm,
there is, that has led to a significant amount of people being underbanked. I shouldn't say unbanked, but underbanked.
mhm.
Um, and they make money. They make a lot of money. Their risk is priced higher than usual
Is
because
their
they
interest rates also higher than the banks?
it's very much higher because it's a different risk.
Yes.
Um, but they have come in and flourished, and it is because of the very shallow financial system that we have. And one of the things that make the US so good and so powerful, the US has a very deep financial system where, I mean, we can't even get a credit bureau going in the I mean,
Wow.
you sit there and walk around town and pull out forms for them to make a credit judgment.
Right.
Um, you still have to wait 2 days for a check to clear. In
Really?
the same
Yeah.
country, banks on the same street. So
Mhm.
we have some ways to go
Mhm.
in terms of having an enabling environment that can facilitate commerce at the speed commerce wants to be facilitated. And in this new digital age, I'm afraid that the quintessential formal financial system, as we call them, are not going to gallop into the digital age the way that commerce will need them to.
I certainly agree
And,
because we have a
yeah,
lot of online banks now that are no longer brick and mortar.
well, this is the way to go. I mean, when you really
Yes.
think about it, there's no really reason for you to have a brick and mortar bank. I mean,
Hmm.
all of us see our transactions online anyway.
Right.
And the thing is that you have to be able to move capital in a digital environment for you to be able to be efficient in this space. Because one of the main things the digital economy does is that it opens up your customer base beyond your physical borders.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to target different customers from different economies, they're operating on a different level. I mean, you're not going to ask anybody in the US to fill out a credit card authorization form and fax it to you. I mean, it's
Do
a
we still do
joke.
that in Dominica?
What? Of course. Yeah, that's that. So, you have to be able to process on your website.
Mm-hmm.
Physical terminals are expensive when I think that you pass.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, I mean, the infrastructure is there. The telecommunications infrastructure is excellent. Give Flow and Digicel their props. They have invested quite heavily, particularly in Dominica after Hurricane Maria. The time that the infrastructure came back up was quite impressive. Yeah. I mean, fiber is not a big thing or an expensive, prohibitive thing anymore, even on a small island with such a small customer base. So the infrastructure is there to enable that type of commerce.
Mm-hmm.
The tech is there, whether you get it internationally or not, it's there. Almost every software you can buy now is downloadable. Yeah, we grew up in the days when you had to wait for the CD to come in the mail. It don't have that no more.
Right.
So, and we are Caribbean people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the customer base is there. What we don't have is a financial system that can accommodate that at the level of efficiency that is required to really drive commerce the way that we would want it to. And they are gods unto themselves.
Mm.
They do their thing, they do it their way, and they do it at their own pace.
And that's the challenge, and that's the challenge. And that's what I want to ask you. But before I do, let me just remind everyone that you're listening to Untapped Potential. I'm having a wonderful commercial conversation with Mr. Michel Williams out of Dominica. He's the managing director of Navigance Consulting Services. And we're just talking through the challenges of COVID-19, the challenges that have been presented by COVID-19, and just the need for us, I would say, Michelle, to change our mindset. Would you say that is what is lacking? Because we've talked about that the infrastructure is there, the technology is there, but for some reason, we don't seem to be embracing the new opportunities for doing business, especially in this digital world.
Well, you see, the commercial side of the digital economy cannot move if the money side does not facilitate. And in the small islands, the level of investments that these financial institutions would have to take in terms of their IT infrastructure to be able to accommodate that kind of thing. You know, banks don't normally spend money, they just charge. So, you know, it's not something that they're going to gallop to. It's not regulated or mandated by any legislation or any central bank. And so they have been traditionally fairly on a very purposeful dead march to the future. And largely it's because we don't have the size, we don't have the population, we don't have the economies.
But my question is, can you do a dead march into the future, Michel? Can you do a dead march into the future? Think about that for a minute.
Well, that is true. I mean, in this environment in particular, one of the things, I don't know if that is kosher to say, but one of the things I like about COVID is that COVID has put a lot of the things that we were dead marching to front and center as a matter of urgency for survival. Yes. And so it is not an endless debate about what needs to be done. It needs to be done. And it's not an endless debate as to what it's going to cost. We're not going to have economies if we don't move. I mean, 2020 was pretty much spent waiting for somebody to come and save us. And the people that normally would save us seem to be in worse shape than we are.
They're not coming. So what are we going to do?
Right, well, they're going to save themselves first and they're in trouble. So we have pretty much have good management control of the virus in the Caribbean. We actually listen to science. And so we have a captive opportunity. I'm the proverbial optimist. I think we have a captive opportunity in the islands while we can to innovate and innovate quickly, and for us to position ourselves to be the leaders, certainly on this side of the world, to be able to handle what is coming and how we can do commerce. And the tourists will still come. I mean, you know, people have been cooped up in their houses for a year. The first time they'll be able to take a cruise and be able to do it safe, they're gonna sail south. So they're gonna come. The economies will come back in certain measure, but it will come back in a different way. And I don't think there's enough discussion as to how that can happen and what do we need to do as the people on the receptive ends to prepare for it. There's not enough. I mean, for instance, the CDC gave the cruise lines in the US the opportunity to start sailing by the end of the year, but with a lot of protocols. Those protocols that they have to put on their passengers, we're going to have to replicate it on the destination end. And so I'm pretty sure there's people looking at that in the background, but governments are not the people that interact with tourists. The population is. And there's just not enough conversation about that. And people are not given enough notice to be able to position themselves to do that. And we just still, from a macro level, trying to stop people from getting sick.
Yeah, and I think it gives us an opportunity to kind of look at our business and look at how we can stop Mac timing. I like that expression that you use. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to steal it. So I think it gives us an opportunity to stop Mac timing and start marching forward. But in what direction? How do we embrace the new opportunities? How do we move past fear? Because a lot of it, Michel, I think you would agree, is just the fear of change. What would you say about that?
I mean, human beings like routine and they like comfort. Yeah. So change normally comes with a certain amount of resistance. We have the added feature in this time where any misstep could run you into an illness or run your economy to the ground or let this thing, run out of control. So we have to step confidently forward. And the way that you do that is to gather as much information as you can so that every step that you take is a positive step in the direction that you have to go. I don't think anybody is confused about the direction that we have to go. I think we are mark timing true, but there's a lot of hesitation from making the wrong step. And the only way you can make the right step is to have as much credible information as you can so that you can move forward. I think in terms of the containment of COVID and the protocols of COVID, it's a moving goalpost because, it's a virus. You don't see it. So no matter what you do, it's going to show up at some point. But the health officials and the frontline workers have been fantastic for the year so far. And we don't have any widespread anything. But there isn't enough discussion and ventilation on the economic impact. And so what you have is that you have people suffering.
Yes.
It may not be outwardly looking like they're suffering, but they are. We don't control the price of power because that is controlled by world prices of oil. So you want light on in your house, it's going to cost you a certain amount of things, but you don't make the same amount of money. We don't produce a lot of the food that we consume. Duties have not changed. The cost of freight has not changed. So you still have a relative price freeze sort of on certain things, but the income has disappeared.
Yep. And
so you have hardships that are drawn out rather than acute. We talk about stimulus is a band-aid to a mortal wound.
It is.
When you have a pandemic. And so you cannot stimulus your way out of a mortal wound.
Absolutely, because the stimulus will not last forever. I'd rather we do some seminars and some workshops like you're doing in terms of changing what can we do right now to stimulate business. The stimulus, yes, it does help. It is a band-aid. But again, like you said, you cannot put a band-aid on a mortal wound. So instead of focusing on, another stimulus package, why not engage forward-thinking people such as you to teach businesses what can you do now? The ghost kitchen we just talked about. What can you do now to adapt so that you're not dependent on only that stimulus package?
Absolutely, because the way that the economies are going to move is not going to be by charity. Businesses has to be propped up. They have to innovate, and profit is an excellent motivation and incentive. Nobody's in business to lose money. So businesses, by their natural self, will tilt to what they need to tilt to. But I think there needs to be adequate support, and it cannot be left to the commercial banks that have to protect people's deposits. So there has to be an opportunity to help small and mid-sized business. And there's a lot of emphasis on small and innovative businesses, which is good, and entrepreneurship, which is good. But the push for entrepreneurship today is because we have ignored entrepreneurship for the last decade or so. And so it's difficult for you to start something now for it to be sustainable because you need 3 to 5 years. So the businesses that are there now need to be able to expand so that they can pick up the gap in terms of the employment. They can grow and they can help provide, if you want to call it stimulus, monthly stimulus for labor.
I like that idea. Monthly stimulus, a profit.
Yeah, monthly stimulus to the people that work for them at salaries that are competitive, that they can meet their life. And that is going to help the governments that have the social networks that they need to do, because the entire country can't be on a social safety net.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Michel, I'm learning so much from having you and Stephen Lander and all these business minds, Kareem Gates, that come on this program. And one of the things I want to do in the new year, and I'll just throw the idea out to you right now, is I want us to bring those minds together, because I think too much we rely on the government solution. What can you do for me? What can you do for me? And yet we have these minds right amongst us that are ready to do the work. So I'm going to invite you, Karim Geese, Stephen Lander, and some of the brilliant minds in Dominica. Maybe we can come together and just
Absolutely.
throw ideas out there and see what sticks for people.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I've found that has retarded industry, particularly in some of the OECS countries, not so much in St. Lucia, Barbados has worked it out, Jamaica has done very well. Businesses don't operate in a silo in these islands.
Yes.
There is enough synergies among businesses where everybody can make money because everybody's a customer or a supplier of somebody else.
Yeah.
In the small islands, you have a very large government influence, which has its own positive and negative connotations. But because the industry, the private sector is so small, and people are able to operate in silos by themselves,
and that's not good,
for a very long time, and do okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have this cross-fertilization, you don't have this synergies. I mean, you have suppliers competing with their customers because they're customers too of their own self. And so it doesn't happen. Now our population is extremely small, so we have small population and we have low purchasing power, which is two of the crazy things. A lot of my colleagues in the islands ask me, "Oh, why do you do business in Dominica?" Because I say, because Dominica is the perfect incubator.
Wow.
It's small, so you can pivot very quickly. It has a very small customer base, so you don't have to do a huge investment up front. And it is very brutal in that your mistakes show up very, very present.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can get a business concept to survive in that environment, and it has the DNA of an elephant, even if it's an ant, then you can pretty much do amazing things when you get into population centers like St. Lucia with almost 200,000 people, and Barbados with almost 300,000, Jamaica with 3 million, and so on and so forth. And we have had business concepts that were created here that went across the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. Such as?
Fast cash.
Mm-hmm.
That I took it across the Caribbean.
Oh, good to know.
Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing about being small.
Right.
Or being poor for that matter.
Right.
It is a matter of what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can hone and deal with your skill that you have. Dominica provides a skill where you can perfect a lot of things if you see it like that. A lot of businesses start in Dominica, and before they can conquer the Dominican market, they're already expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're making errors in 2 different markets at the same time. And it's crippling. Mm-hmm. And so if you take your time and you have the discipline, I mean, you have the Fine Foods group of business. Carnassive is all over the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started here. So it isn't that Dominica is such the place that what you see here is all that is. There are people that have taken their business model and other business models as business people and gone across the Caribbean,
mm-hmm.
and they are making it work. Mm-hmm. And so that opportunity is open for everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have integrated as a people a long time ago in the Caribbean, and we just waiting for the governments to catch up. So, you're just as local in Guam, in Grenada as you are in, Choiseul in St. Lucia, as you are in Crosskeys in Antigua. I mean, we the Caribbean people have integrated. If you have a good product, Caribbean people are going to buy it wherever it's from.
And I think you make such a vital point in terms of that synergy, that coming together of the energies, and kind of not, I'm just not a fan of, we have to have government policy, so we cannot negate the importance of government policy, but I'm so much more a fan of what we can do together to advance each other's lives. And, you know, as we get ready to wind down, and I have to tell you, I've truly enjoyed this conversation, I just want you to remind our audience of your company, the services that you offer, and how we might get in touch with you.
All right, so we're a full service business advisory practice. We do accounting, we do auditing, we do consulting, we do business development, we do marketing, we do IT, and we do it across the Caribbean. We are based in Dominica. We have partners in Barbados and Grenada. We have professionals from Jamaica. We have professionals across the Caribbean that we partner with and work with. We have unique skill sets in terms of the different types of businesses, retail, tourism-based, hotels. We have a huge financial institution knowledge pool because we have a few bankers in there like myself. We have a lot of qualified accountants in there as well too. We have some marketing professionals that are second to none, US-based trading, but Caribbean centric. And so we're there. We're available. My email address is mwilliams@navigantcs.com. You reach out to us. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You